Ed Alice. Ed, you were in our September-October issue on your cross-country bike trip of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
You called it 3,417 miles or thereabouts.
That's correct. That's correct.
Ed has a long history with Lake Country Journal. We have run his stories on mushing and winter camping, and we have included his haiku in our pages. And a few years ago, we did his bike trip down the Mississippi all the way to the Gulf Coast.
End of the road in Venice, Louisiana.
Your life is an adventure, Ed. Whenever I talk to you, you have a story or you've come back from a recent bike trip. The one that we put in the journal now, you went from the East Coast to the West Coast, as you said, 3,417 miles or thereabouts. Give me a highlight that comes to mind when you think about that cross-country bike trek.
Heat. I mean, last summer was hot, and it started basically in Michigan. We went from the East Coast to the West Coast, from Bar Harbor, Maine to Anacortes to Washington State. But it started getting warm in Michigan. Wisconsin started getting super hot. We came into Minnesota on July the 2nd at 112 heat index. My partner, this Pat Messer out of Cheyenne, Wyoming, we were going into Cambridge, and we weren't that far, and we pulled off at an out-of-work building and had closed down for a little shade to put on some more sunscreen. And she said, "Ed, I don't think I can go any more." And I kept my mouth shut, putting on, and let her just kind of, I think I'll walk across the street there to that house and see if they got any cold water. And it worked out. She came back, had cold water, and said, "It's really cold in that house. They got air conditioning going, and the lady just had a baby like 2 days ago, something like that." And I just kept quiet, putting on sunscreen. I said, "Yeah, we could probably stop about every half mile in the shade." We did that once, and then there was no more shade. But at last, the water tower of Cambridge showed up, and we went, "Okay, we can make it there." And we made it. But I mean, heat defined from there to the West Coast.
Well, thankfully, you had mentioned that you got home to your wife, who I don't know how she puts up with your journeys, but
because she got into mountain biking that year, so
okay. You missed a couple of storms, and
I missed some really big storms over that 4th of July thing. When Lake Itasca got beat up, we were going to camp there. We wanted to go up there and see the headwaters because Pat's never seen it, but it was messed up, and we had to kind of jerry-rig the route a little there, and then went down the Heartland Trail to Park Rapids, and then over to Detroit Lakes and Fargo-Moorhead and out that way.
But you eventually dipped your wheels into the Pacific.
Yep.
Now, what would you do differently? What is your top bit of advice that you would change?
What I would do differently is I would not pull a trailer. We pulled trailers all the way across. A trailer, even though they're small, and they have their place in long-distance bicycling, but on that kind of trip we did, I would not use the trailer because it just says, "Fill me." I held the record for sending home the most weight, and we sent stuff home twice. So first time it was 16 pounds on the East Coast, that kind of thing. And I gave some stuff away out there. I gave a little one Pullman stove away to a place we stayed, and the little boy there was putting together his camping equipment. And I asked his mother, said, would he mind having a little Coleman stove? And she said, "Oh, that's what he and his grandpa are working for, is the stove." And so little Roy got it. He was tickled pink.
I was going to ask you about your next trip, but then I found that you just got back from a trip. Tell us briefly about that.
Briefly. It was the Candace ride out in North Dakota. It's their yearly ride where they start at Garrison, North Dakota on Lake Sacagawea, and they go to a different direction every year. And I've ridden this probably about 5 times now out of their 21, 22 years. And this year we went up to the Peace Gardens. But so they have about 300-400 people, and that's where Pat and I, it's the only time we meet, is at that rate, is that ride, And it was cold this year, but it was fun.
You said the average age of the bikers on that trip is 55.
55.
What would you like to see change about that?
I would like to see it a lot younger. I would like to see more, 20-somethings, teenagers, 30-somethings, into this sport of distance bicycling. I mean, it's just getting too many. I wouldn't say too many old people, because the 78-year-old guy was out there riding just as fast as everybody else. But it seems like we're not getting, in all the stuff I do, like canoeing, bicycling and all this other stuff, it's people my age. Even the Boundary Water nowadays. Look at the average age of people there.
Now, you said this is called the CAN disc. What does that stand for?
That stands for Cycling Around North Dakota in Sacagawea Country.
Thank you. If anyone wants to look that up, look for the CAN disc.
That's right, I get it.
You've given us lots of aha moments over the years, Ed, and I thank you for coming in to talk to us today. Check out the September-October issue to learn more about Ed's travels, and keep an eye out for him on the road. You never know where he'll turn up.
That's correct, you won't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any haikus from your trip?
From my trip, Vermont Cafe. Vegans graze like cattle.